everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you guys are doing really well. I'm good, and thank you so much for coming back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video that some of you have been waiting for some time now, and that is the different ways that you can prove to the NMC that you meet the language requirements. As we all know, English language evidence is something that is required by the NMC for all nurses who want to come from overseas to work in the UK, and most of us, including me, go for the IELTS exam. And the reason that we go for the IELTS exam is because it's offered all over the world. You can get it from almost all the countries, and it's highly accepted by the NMC as compared to the other options. There is also OET, which a lot of people take, but the problem with the OET is that it's more expensive than IELTS, and it's only offered in a few countries, not all of them. So if someone wants to do OET exam and it's not offered in their country, then they need to make their own arrangements to go to the nearest country or the nearest center where the exam is offered. I'll just get straight into the 4 options, but before I do, I'd like to say that IELTS and OET are highly acceptable by the NMC. I only know a few people who have used the last 2 options, and unfortunately for some of them, the NMC did not accept those options and they ended up doing the IELTS or OET exams. But we'll get into that, and I'll tell you guys what they look out for in the other 2 options, just so you're prepared if you're thinking of trying to use those 2 other options. So the first way that you can prove to the NMC that you meet the English language requirements is by doing the IELTS exam. And like I said, most of us tend to go for the IELTS exam. First of all, IELTS is International English Language Test System, which is an exam consisting of 4 categories. And in each of these categories, there are set marks that NMC expects you to get so they can consider you as a person who can communicate well in English. The best thing with IELTS is that it's offered widely, and there are a lot of materials online if you guys search for them. There are also people who are offering trainings for the IELTS exam, just so you're prepared and you know what to expect when you go to do the exam. When you're booking the IELTS exam, guys, please book IELTS Academic. I've had some people, not many, just a few, who told me that they booked the IELTS general exam by mistake. So be very careful, because this is a lot of money that you could actually use for something else, so you don't want to waste the money by booking the wrong exam. I'm not very sure if they refund the money, but even if they do, you're gonna go through a lot of stress before you get that refunded. So please remember to book the IELTS academic exam. Now, in the past, when I was doing the process, or just like a year ago, the Home Office wanted the nurses to do the IELTS for UKVI, which is the same exam, but that one was specifically set for immigration. So when you apply for your visa, you needed to submit that certificate of IELTS UKVI to the Home Office. And we were being advised to do the IELTS for UKVI in the beginning, because NMC was accepting the IELTS for UKVI. So if you did that, then you would use that certificate for the NMC, and then you would use it at the end of the process when you apply for your visa. But now the Home Office said that they actually accept the IELTS academic exam, so you don't have to do the UKVI, because as long as the NMC accepts the IELTS academic, then the Home Office is going to accept that. And the reason I'm talking about this is because IELTS academic and IELTS UKVI, they are basically the same exam, but IELTS UKVI tends to be more expensive. So you can save yourself some cash by doing the IELTS academic, and both NMC and the Home Office are going to accept that certificate as long as you get the required marks. For the scores that the NMC requires you to have, you should have an overall score of 7. I'm sure we all know this. You should have an overall score of 7. Writing, you should get at least 6.5, and then for reading, speaking and listening, you should get a 7. And if it happens by bad luck that you don't get these required scores by the NMC, and you can always combine two scores to achieve the required score. If you decide to combine the two tests, there are conditions. So both of the tests need to be done within 6 months of each other, and then you need to achieve at least a 6.5 in writing in either of the exams and a 7 in listening, reading and speaking in either of the two tests. If you would like more information on the IELTS exam, I've actually done a few videos regarding the IELTS exam, like how the exam looks like or what is expected of you, some changes that the NMC have made regarding the IELTS exams, and a lot more. Be sure to check out the links in the description box down below. OET or Occupational English Test is another option that you can use to prove to the NMC that you meet the language requirements. The problem with this exam, like I said before, is that it's not widely offered. There are also a few reading materials that I've seen online. Guys, for all these reading materials, you just need to go to Google and type reading materials for IELTS or reading materials for OET, and then you're going to choose from the options that you get from Google, and I think some of them are actually quite helpful. Some people actually prefer to take the OET exam because they say that the questions are more professional based in terms of nursing as compared to the IELTS exam, which tends to bring you more general topics. Now, for the accepted scores for the OET exam, you should get at least a C+ in the writing section and at least a B in the reading, listening and speaking sections. You can always combine two tests like in the IELTS exam as long as they are done within 2 months of each other, and as long as you get at least a C+ in writing in either of the two tests and at least a B in reading, speaking and listening in either of the two test sittings. So the third one that you guys have been waiting for is using your training, okay? And because I'm not so well versed on this, I'm getting all the information from the NMC website over here, and that's what I'm going to be reading for you guys. If you have completed an NMC approved pre-registration nurse or midwife program, we will accept this as evidence that you have the necessary knowledge in English. If you completed your program in a majority English-speaking country, you will need to demonstrate that your program meets the requirements set out in our guidance by providing evidence which meets our criteria. If you are from a non-majority English-speaking country, you will need to demonstrate that your program meets the requirements set out in our guidance by providing the evidence which meets our criteria. Now, they say that we will consider your evidence, but please be aware that it's likely you will need to provide an alternative type of evidence, such as a language test. Your evidence must confirm that the program was composed of at least 50% clinical interaction. And your evidence must also clearly demonstrate that at least 75% of that was with patients, service users, their families and other healthcare professionals, and that it must have taken place in English. And if your evidence does not clearly demonstrate these requirements, you will definitely need to provide an alternative type of evidence, such as a language test. And this is what I was talking about, guys, that a few of the people that I knew, some of them were from the US and they were accepted, but some of them who were from African countries, I think it was 2 of them, they ended up doing the IELTS exam. They were given an option to do IELTS or OET exam. And the reason is they are saying that if you're from a non-majority English-speaking country, for example, if you come from Kenya, then you need to provide evidence that says that in the last 2 years, you studied or you completed a nursing program and you were taught in English. They need you to prove that 50% of your training was involving clinical interaction, okay? And then 75% of that time, of that clinical interaction time, you need to prove that you are communicating in English to healthcare professionals, your colleagues, the patients, their relatives, and anyone else that you might have interacted with. You need to provide that evidence. And if you can't provide that, they're going to come back to you and tell you that you need to do an English exam. Okay? So like I said, if you guys want to try this method, then you have to be really sure that you can provide evidence that they are stating here. So the fourth method that you can prove to the NMC that you meet the language requirements is that you registered and practice in English. And like the previous method, I'm just going to read from the website just so we get the whole information straight from the NMC. They say that to be able to rely on evidence that you've practiced in English, you must be able to satisfy us that you have 1 year of recent practice in a majority English speaking country. Okay, so you need to provide evidence that in the last 1 year you practiced in a majority English speaking country. You must have completed an English language assessment or examination as part of your registration as a nurse or midwife outside of the UK. We may require confirmation from each of your employers that the practice you undertook was in English and that you have the necessary knowledge of English to practice safely and effectively in the UK. By recent, we mean that the end of the period of practice you are relying on must be within the last 2 years at the point when you apply to register with us. I think this is kind of similar to the IELTS exam, which expires in 2 years. For some reason, they think that after 2 years you completely forget how to communicate in English. So this period needs to be within the last 2 years at the point that you apply to register with the Nursing and Midwifery Council in the UK. If you choose to use this as your language evidence, please make sure that your employer is aware of what you're doing and that they are going to actually support you in proving that you meet the language requirement that the NMC states, because they say in the website that they are going to contact your employer, and so you just need to make sure that you let your employers know in advance that they are going to be contacted, and they should help you in proving that you meet the language requirements. So those are the 4 ways that you can use to prove to the NMC that you can speak or communicate in English effectively. Okay guys, so I hope that hasn't been a disappointment, because I know some of you wanted to use these last 2 evidences as proof to the NMC, but I thought I'd just put it out there and make you guys aware, because for some of you it's actually going to be very useful and you don't need to do the IELTS or OET. And like I said, be very careful and make sure that you can provide the evidence as NMC states it, because if you don't, then you're going to have wasted like 2 months waiting for your decision letter, and then they come back to you and tell you that you need to do the IELTS or OET exams. So be very careful. Go through the NMC website. I'm going to leave a link down below so you guys can go straight to these 2 evidences and just assess if you meet them before you decide to use them. If you also need to check out my other videos on NMC process, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description box down below, or you can check it out in this icon right here. And yeah, thank you so much for watching up to this point. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.